NurseBob. I'm a practicing nurse in Northern California, and today I'm going to start a series on diabetes. I'm going to talk about what diabetes is. There's two types. There's type 1, type 2. Type 1 you're born with, and type 2 is generally attributed to lifestyle. So I'm going to talk about both what we can do to prevent type 2, as well as what things somebody born with type 1 can also do to extend their life and improve their quality of life. Given that this is going to be a series of videos, if you want, you can go to my website, and there you'll be able to download the entire set of series as one file. Otherwise, you can watch on YouTube here, and it'll be a series of 2 to 3 minute segments. So I'm Nurse Bob, and let's start talking about diabetes. So, what is diabetes? Well, first, we're going to talk about sort of basic metabolism of the three basic food groups. There's carbohydrates, which can be either simple sugars or complex sugars, which are starches and baked goods. We of course have proteins, which can be meats, or certain vegetables have a fair amount of protein, the beans and nuts. And then of course there's the fats. And there can be both animal fat and, vegetable fats. It tends to be healthier if we stick with the vegetable fats. So what happens with the normal metabolism? You have a meal, and, when you digest your meal, the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are all broken down by the digestive system. You can see that the the carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars called glucose, which is for immediate use by the cells, or they may be stored as a substance called glycogen, or even fat, which is really for long-term storage. The glycogen is for intermediate use, if you need some energy, but not right this second. The proteins are broken down into their building blocks and then rebuilt as tissue, or the organs, nerves, bones, your brain, muscles, etc. And of course fats, well, they go to fat, which is the long-term storage. So what happens in diabetic metabolism? Well, insulin, which is used to move the glucose from the blood into the cells, is ineffective. Either it's not there, or it's resistant. The cells won't use the insulin effectively. So we start building up sugar in the blood. And what happens with the proteins and fats? Well, the body knows that it's starving. That is, it can't get the glucose into the cells. And the brain in particular can only use glucose for its metabolism. So we start building up more and more glucose. And when you break down the proteins, well, they are used to create more glucose, which gets dumped back into the bloodstream. And when you break down fats, you get toxic byproducts. They create ketones and acids. So, what happens then? Well, you get a really deranged blood chemistry. We start seeing increasing glucose levels, and you start seeing more and more acid in the blood. And the early symptoms of this syndrome, which is called diabetic ketoacidosis, are, well, actually, let's hold off on the diabetic ketoacidosis. We'll just start talking about the symptoms of diabetes. So you have increasing thirst and increasing urine output. Well, those two kind of tie together. As you take in more fluid, the body tries to dump it back out again. But the reason for the increasing thirst is all that excess sugar in the blood, and the body's trying to dilute it. And of course there's excessive hunger. Why? Well, you're starving. You're not able to actually use the nutrition that your body is taking in. The late symptoms, well, you start seeing muscle and tissue wasting because it's the body is breaking down protein faster than it's building it up. It's trying to use it to make glucose, which of course doesn't work. Well, it makes the glucose, but it can't utilize it. Ultimately, this will lead to coma and finally to death. So, diabetes is a very serious condition, and it needs to be identified early and treated. If you're an adult and it's a late onset, it seems to be identified with lifestyle and diet. If it's early onset or adolescent or type 1 diabetes, that's usually an autoimmune disease, so the body just doesn't make insulin. So that's our real quick explanation of what diabetes is and how it works against you. I'm Nurse Bob. If you want to see more information about diabetes, visit the website. It's Nurse Bob's video blog. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future. Thank you.